Hey guys, I just wanted to do my review of Legends of Tomorrow, Season 2, Episode 14, Moonshot. I was reviewing this first because I was at work, so I didn't have time to watch The Flash. I missed it. I'm going to watch it online and upload my review later tonight or sometime tomorrow. I was able to catch Legends of Tomorrow. I was able to catch, I wasn't able to catch The Flash, I was able to catch Legends, though. So, the episode begins with, it starts in Manhattan, 1975, where Rip Hunter drops Hank Haywood off, Nate's grandfather, with presumably with a piece of the Spear of Destiny, saying he has to blend in, make a new life. And Hank says give his dog tags to his wife and son, and they both part ways, which is immediately followed by present-day Rip and the rest of the Legends showing up on that same plaza stoop in Manhattan, trying to look for Nate Haywood. And it's almost like this episode had moments of just showing incompetence on Rip's part for some reason, because both past Rip and maybe I can give him that one. Past Rip and Hank get lost in the crowd, and so they can't find them in 1965, so they're able to use Gideon to look at the history records to able to get back on the ship to find out that he's working at NASA in 1970, helping to land Apollo 13. And so they set a date for April 13, 1970, the launch of Apollo 13. With Nate walking in the room saying, with the file folder, saying, "Hey, I know how we can find Hank." And it's like and the team announces they already found him. Rip is like, "Oh, I have a way we have to figure out a way to infiltrate NASA," and it's just NASA and Sarah has a plan saying that how to communicate with Hank. I think they said how to communicate with Hank, and Sarah just says, "Oh, we can just infiltrate NASA," and they end up going on a tour. I know Amaya, Sarah, and Nate and Ray end up going on the tour. No, it's sorry. Ray is with Rip in a conference room with Hank, and Ray walks up to Hank, and basically Hank immediately punches him as soon as he sees Rip again, calling him a son of a bitch, saying, "Oh, he didn't have his press credentials," and has him arrested and put into an interrogation room. And so Sarah and the rest of the Legends come to confront him, and he says, "Oh, it's personal," and he says that he hid his piece of the spear in the flag that Neil Armstrong took with him and placed on the City of Tranquility on the moon. And they ask him about Apollo 13 and how there was an oxygen tank explodes, and how he has to guide the ship back to Earth. And he says, "Oh, everything's going according to plan." And then they realize there's a time aberration, and it turns out Eobard Thawne, using his appearance-stealing cord, disguises himself as one of the astronauts and tranquilizes the other astronauts on board in order to get to the spear. And so they have Mick, Martin, Jax working on ground control, mission control, and the rest of them go into space, with Ray stowing away on the shuttle, and tries to shrink down and tries to figure out what's going on. But Thawne ends up seeing him, and in the ensuing fight, I think it's the LEM gets separated from the command module. Basically, Ray's forced. It's the capsule. So basically, Ray's forced to land it on the moon, and he's able to tie up Eobard Thawne. But they have to create. But Stein and Company on ground control has to create a distraction while Jax cuts the feed, so they don't know what's going on. And probably the funniest scene in the episode is where Martin Stein gets up and starts saying, "Deo, Deo, did I come and me want to go home?" and starts playing the entire Harry Belafonte song with everyone in the ship doing the whole looks like, what the fuck? And then everybody in Mission Control looking at Martin like, what the fuck? But he ends up getting Mick, and everybody else starts singing along, and they cut the feud long enough, and one of the people there is like, what the hell are you doing? It's like, oh, it's British tradition, because they say that because Martin and Jack say they're from the British space program, and it allows Jax's actor to use his natural British accent. So he lands on the moon, but because they had to intercept the rest of the shuttle and using the tractor beam, Sarah takes command of the ship, but it gets caught in like a meteor field, and Sarah and Ray are bickering, including about the ship was able to take a nuclear blast. It can take on like a meteorites coming at, like an asteroid field, like a meteorites coming at us, being in a field. And Rips was like, well, at least I had the decency to time scatter you, but it's like, and then Sarah calls them out on saying like they time scattered them to places where they were like about to die, including Sarah, who's about to be hung as a witch, and because of all the bickering, it ends up the shields on the ship can't withstand it, so they lose their landing gear, and basically it's up to Ray to pilot the space capsule back into space. He can't come and pick them up. So he gets the spear from the flag. He goes back on this ship and tries to say and tells Thawne he's gonna use the Dwarf Star Ally to power the ship back to Earth. And then there's this parody to Matt Damon in The Martian, in which Rip is recording, being stranded on there for posterity, and Eobard tells him, what the hell is he doing? And Eobard convinces him that they had to form an allegiance in order to get back to Earth and use his scientific expertise to make sure Ray's plan works. And they're basically, and for some reason I don't know what the fuck the writers were thinking, but they throw in this line of dialogue for Eobard saying, oh, he enjoyed working with Cisco and Caitlin in Star Labs. He missed the camaraderie of working with another scientist. But it's like this version of Eobard was pulled from the timeline from the night that he killed Barry's mom. So this is before the events of season 1, so he shouldn't have any memories of that. Yet somehow he does, and it causes continuity error galore. Ray calls Eobard out on his actions for killing Barry's mom twice, Rex Tyler, and saying they're both more like Aiden. He has no right to call him being selfish, and says that Ray could have used his Dwarf Star Ally to power the entire city, and instead he uses it just for glory. And it says they both want to do things in the name of science, and and how Eobard wants to restore his natural existence. And eventually they're able to get the capsule out of there, and I guess and basically they got on board the Wave Rider, and they're able to slingshot the Apollo 13 capsule back to Earth, but take Eobard in the custody because they have all of the anti-speedster weapons once he enters the ship and enters the brig. And Nate and Amaya are arguing about sending Nate's grandfather back to 1956, so he can be there for Nate's father, because Nate has a bad relationship with his father and he wants to repair the relationship. And Amaya advises against it, to the point where Amaya just tells him you can't return to 1956, or Nate never becomes the man that he is. And then Nate gets so pissed about that she basically spills the beans and tells Amaya everything that Ray told him about his future, or at least it says hey, tell him about what happens. Ask Ray what happens to your village, about your granddaughter, about your future. And those are the points where I was like, why is Amaya? I figured I wanted Amaya to be a little bit more sympathetic, and it was why is she always being this cold-hearted bitch about it's like showed like a little bit of emotion or compassion, and Nate was just, you know it was gonna happen, but it's like it was such a like a low blow that he was gonna like spill the beans to Amaya about her future, but basically the only way because the Wave Riders running out of power, they have to reserve tons of power in order to like navigate the ship back to Earth, and Ray is forced to reluctantly ask Eobard, at what angle the angle of re-entry, and Eobard says 38 degrees, because he says like he's not going to kill everybody who has his best shot at getting back to Earth. So Ray tells Sarah that because they had to shut down Gideon, and Rip and Sarah have a debate as to, and Rip decides to let Sarah make the call and make a decision, and Sarah decides if Ray trusts Eobard, then she'll trust Ray, and of course they make it back to Earth, but at the cost of there is one trade-off. The one trade-off is that they have to open the cargo bay doors and have enough pressure to propel themselves back to Earth. Rip and Sarah are about to volunteer because they're both the captains, but then it's Hank, Nate's grandfather, who decides to do it because he's not supposed to. He never gets to reunite with Hank Jr., Nate's father, and Hank Sr.'s son. So he decides that he's the one who needs to make the sacrifice, and locks the entryway to the cargo bay to prevent Nate from talking him out of it, and so he opens the cargo bay doors and gets sucked out, and Amaya comes to comfort him when he breaks down crying, and Hank Jr. ends up showing up at NASA. Hank confronts him and talks about Nate's dad's dislike towards him, and Hank Jr. feels sorry for him, and he just tells him that it's just to learn from that, and just he can be a better man for it, and just to give you some glimmer of hope that maybe there's some reconciliation for the two of them in the future, even without Hank Sr. And Eobard Thawne phases through the brig and is about to escape, and you realize from Eobard that the anti-speedster weapons were Thawne created them, and Rip stole them at some point, and Ray deduces that he tells Eobard that he knows he's a time remnant, and he deduces that he's running from something, and Thawne's watch beeps saying that alerting him to the black flash is near, but it's like but you think he would just it's like plot-induced stupidity that keeps doing on these shows. It's like just keep shooting at him until like the black flash shows up and immobilizes him, but no, he just lets Thawne get away. And Nate and Amaya apologize for being jerks to one another, and Amaya decides to ask Gideon about her future, and she pulls up pictures and files on Zambezi being burned, to Mari in foster care, even pictures of Mari, Megalyn EK, from her. They're basically just set photos from her appearance on Arrow season 4. And Rip comes to terms, and Rip admits to Sarah he's having a hard time coming to terms with the fact that Sarah's a much better captain than he ever was, which the entire audience knows about. And he says he doesn't know what his place is on the team anymore, and Sarah just basically says that you sound like an outcast or a misfit, that you sound like a legend, assuring that he's always going to have a place on the team. And so I thought it was a really good episode. In some ways, much better than. I think I actually just enjoyed this more. I thought it was a lot better than last week's episode, and I like the fact that Rip didn't just take back command of the crew since his return, that Sarah's still going to be captain, and hopefully he'll still remain on the team. And at least I'm looking forward to next week, where at least get to finally see Captain Cold reappear after just being teased for, well, almost a year about his return. So, what do you guys think of the episode? Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. If you like this video, like, share, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.